Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to a special episode today. Usually we do our Prog Song Sunday on Sundays, but we thought we'd do something a little special. It's our anniversary today.
Woo!
We've got Jana with me.
Hi, I'm Jana.
And
We've been married 12 years now.
Yeah, 12 years today. It's May 5th for any who watch this later when we're filming and putting this out. So, yeah, what we're deciding to do today is to kind of take a musical journey through Jana's life. You know, we've kind of been talking about this a little bit, and people on the channel in comments often ask what Jana's musical taste is and, you know, what she...
I have a feeling everyone's going to be severely disappointed.
No. And we've done a couple things that have given a flavor of your taste, like your top 10 songs or, pop songs and things.
Songs.
So, yeah, I just kind of am going to let Jana take the floor and... give her top 10 albums that changed her life, essentially.
Okay. All right, here we go. So if you've watched the channel, I've said multiple times that I don't necessarily listen to albums. Like, I'm more of a singles hits person, like radio listener. So oftentimes I may have heard the main hit from a song, like the radio hit, but have never heard the whole album. So I don't listen to a lot of full length albums. So I went back, I tried to go back in my mind and think of my whole life of what albums do I know from the beginning to the end, right? Because I've listened to that album, and for this purpose of this video have listened to multiple times. That was my criteria. So I'm not I'm trying to do a good video here. So so that's my criteria, that I've listened to the whole album, I've listened to it multiple times, and that it had some kind of influence or made me change about the way I thought about music. So that's kind of the things that I had. So going back all the way back, I'm going to go in chronological order, what I think is a chronological order. The very first, I was 9 years old, something like that.
Sure.
And the first album, the first thing that I ever bought with my hard-earned allowance of $10 a month was the cassette tape to Tiffany.
All right.
So, and it was all because I had heard, somebody had, at school had played a song, or I heard radio somewhere, the song, I Think You're Alone Now. And as a 9-year-old girl, that was oh my gosh, what is this type of music? I have never heard it before. Because I don't know, I just didn't really listen to a lot of music. Right. At that point, my mom... listened to oldies, so I knew oldies from 50s and 60s types, early 60s. And so Tiffany,
sure,
I bought that one. I bought that cassette, and I listened to it over and over and over in my cassette player, and flip the cassette around and listen to the other side, and every single song, every single word, and I loved it. And it was my first that's the album that I consider, that's my first album I bought.
Nice.
Tiffany, a cassette.
A cassette tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the song I Think You're Alone Now was a cover. So when I heard that later, I was like, oh, they stole Tiffany's song? I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. So.
Right.
Okay, so that's the first one. Okay.
Very cool.
Okay. I don't know if you're going to have any comments or anything or what.
I don't know much about Tiffany, but yeah. I do kind of remember the younger days when I had tapes, and, for me it was a lot of makes tapes. I'd record songs from the radio or from the TV or something like that and make these recordings, or just, take a song from a different tape and put it on my own mixtape kind of thing. So I did a lot of that as a young kid, and, putting different Disney songs and things onto a tape or whatnot. So I could relate to that experience at least. Yeah. But yeah. Good choice. Good start.
Speaking of Disney,
sure.
We're going to move on to the the next one. I've in my early, in my tweens, I guess you could say, the 9 to 12. Besides that Tiffany album, I listened to a lot of Disney. So I was in a very like I said, my mom didn't listen to music, so we listened to Disney. We listened to oldies, and so I wanted to honored like the Disney legacy here.
Sure.
On the Disney music.
Yeah.
Like I had all the albums, like I had like the Little Mermaid soundtrack and the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack, and because I was like, right at the perfect time for those.
Sure.
And so, but the one that I loved, it was this fancy 3-disc set called Disney: A Legacy in Song, and it was basically all the major hits from all the movies. Specifically, Volume 3 just had like all these great songs, and some of them were older ones from like the older shows, and older. Some of them were from the more recent, and so it was just a good collection of Disney music, and it was like this fancy set. It was like in a box, and it had like this book that you would look through, and it was fancy. We packed it, you know, we're packing, we're moving.
Yeah.
So like, I don't have anything to show, but I still have it. So, but anyway, Disney music. So in general, but specifically the album that I listened to all the time was Disney: A Legacy in Song, and it was a compilation. So that basically represented what I listened to as a young child, as an early teen. Tween. Yeah. And
I don't know if it's the same thing, but I had some of my early CDs were the same, like those different color Disney ones classics. That they have, the classic collection or something like that. Yeah,
that's a different collection. Okay. Most of the same songs, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, the one I had was a little bit different. So, okay, then we get into maybe mid-14 years old, mid-teens, early 90s. Ace of Base.
Cool.
And for the reason why this album, it's their main, it's just called Ace of Base, right? I don't remember.
Yeah, I would assume so.
You know,
but I don't know for sure.
If you think of Ace of Base,
it's that one.
It's that one. You know the one. And I was a young teenager, and it had a lot of influence on me because it holds a memory. And so I was on a boat with my my cousins, and it was my uncle's boat. They had this speedboat, and we went up for like this weekend for at a lake. Oh, sounds so prestigious. We went to the lake for the boat, and no, that's not how it was. We were like camping, which I hate camping now, by the way. But we were waiting. We were like tied at the dock, waiting for all the adults to come back, and my cousins put on this album, and essentially the songs, they all sound exactly the same, but I felt like cool as shiz. Like I felt so cool sitting there in a boat rocking out to Ace of Base with my cousins, and I went home and I got that album and I listened to it over and over and over because I really enjoy pop songs, and so that just really resonated in me. It had this great memory with me, and it kind of started like this love of like, I mean, I know I had the Tiffany album when I was like 9, but I was 9, and so this one was like it was the start of my teenage years, and it was like the beginning it was the real beginning of my love of pop. So I think, even though every song sounds the same, but I liked every song on there. I liked that sound.
You liked that formula.
Yeah, so that's Ace of Base.
Yeah, another one that I don't know much about, but
what?
Good on you for liking the good old pop music.
I'm a little weird, just so you know. And my musical tastes are really eclectic because I feel like we didn't really listen to music growing up, or my mom we only listened to certain types because my mom, and my dad didn't really listen to music. Even though he's a musician, like he's a professional musician, he's got he's in some symphonies, he plays violin and everything like that. So he was always in a symphony growing up, but so he never really like listened to music.
Yeah. I think that seems to be common with a lot of musicians. They just focus more on the music they're playing and like learning their own, music for performance, that they don't tend to listen to a lot of just regular music for pleasure, it seems.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Next, I still feel I don't have embarrassment over these things, but I love these albums, and they had a profound impact on me. And so what this next one is the soundtrack to Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, specifically the one with Donny Osmond. when I was a teenager, my church put on the play Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and they had all the I wasn't in it, by the way, but I went to all the performances. I was like a fangirl. A fangirl. And so, but they had, and my friends were in it, and so I was afraid of acting at the time. Now I'd be like,
now you'd be fine.
I'll play the narrator. I can sing, whatever. But I learned, I listened to that album all the time. I had just started driving, and I had it in my car, and so I would sing all the parts, full voice. I was in choir. I was learning to sing and learning how to use a vibrato, like in my voice. Like I learned how to use my vibrato by copying the narrator in Joseph the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I'm like, this is a great album. I love like listening to the soundtrack because I can picture the movie in my mind. I have a great love of soundtracks now. And so therefore it kind of influenced me to go back and like find the soundtrack to like The Music Man, which is another like musical that I loved. And so I went back and listened to like Music Man and Annie and The Happiest Millionaire, which is my favorite movie of all time, by the way. Listening to all these like old soundtracks of these movies that I loved and grew up on, and so it just kind of influenced me for my love of soundtracks. And I still have one more soundtrack on here sure. on my list. So I make no apologies for the things that I like. So. Okay, so next.
Okay.
We're doing all right?
Yeah, I think we're doing fine.
That was 4, so
sure.
now we're on 5. It came out in sometime in my late high school years. Weird Al Yankovic, Running with Scissors.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is one of my like top, 5 desert island albums, and I would take this album with me on a desert island. And I've always listened to Weird Al, but then because I was starting to listen to music more, I had a car that could play music, and I had like this space where I could like sing as loud as I wanted to for the 15 minutes it took me to get to school. So one of this album, like Weird Al Yankovic, I really like. I got the new album. I listened to it. I learned like every word on the album. And Albuquerque, which come to find out much later in my life is influenced by progressive rock.
Yeah.
I had no idea, but I loved it. And so it was my favorite. It's my favorite Weird Al album. It came at the right time for me, and it was just a wonderful little ditty, and it's really influenced like my love of Weird Al since then. And every time Weird Al comes around in concerts, we go to his concerts.
Yeah.
And I know I just got back from Prog Nation at Sea.
Cruise to the Edge.
From Cruise to the Edge. Just got back from Cruise to the Edge and just saw all these amazing like concerts. But Weird Al's last concert.
Still your favorite.
Still my favorite concert of all time. All time, because he was playing the non-hits,
Yeah.
And he played Albuquerque on it. He played Frank's 2000-inch TV, which is one of my deep cut favorites. He played all these great songs, and I was crying at the end of happiness. It was just, I was crying over Weird Al. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm crying now. And I will die on that hill that is the best concert that I have ever been to.
All right, fair enough. I love Weird Al, so I'm not too mad at it.
Yeah.
For me, I think like the first album that really strikes me is Bad Hair Day when I was young. That was like when I was first introduced to Weird Al.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of kids my age, it's the same thing. I think that was a pretty big album at the time. Mm-hmm. Amish Paradise and all of that.
Yeah.
And then, continuing forward, I would pick up his albums and love them. Running with Scissors, Poodle Hat, all those. Yeah. So he's been an important artist to me too. So
that makes me really happy. When we got married and you told me you liked Weird Al, I'm like,
yeah. Yes. As a kid, we were just the right age. Like as a kid, that's like perfect like music because it's funny, but it's not like it's clean, so kids can listen to it.
My mom did not object.
It's still cool in its own way, and it's like hearing these pop songs you hear on the radio, but done in a funny, different, quirky way. So, yeah, I've always grown to love him. And I think he's a great musician, just aside from all the, brilliant comedy that he does. So
yeah,
just a really cool guy.
He's amazing.
Okay.
I love him.
Next. Before
Okay.
this becomes a Weird Al love fest. Yeah.
Too late. All right. So next, also in high school was Alanis Morissette. Nice. Jagged Little Pill.
That's a cool one.
And that was when I started listening to radio music. So I'd listened to a lot of like weird eclectic things, but then also when I got my car, and it's not fancy, it was a 1988 Ford Taurus wagon brown. So it was the shiz. It was cool. My record was 14 high school students in that car. I got in trouble. The Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, and I had started listening to the radio when I didn't have CDs to listen to. I listened to the radio, and so that's when I started that's really when I discovered what was on the radio at that time. So anything from like pop rock, a little bit of alternative, that type of stuff in that vein. So Alanis Morissette came along, and I loved the few hits that she had, so I bought that album, listened to it multiple times over and over, know all the songs on it, sing along because she's right in my range. It's amazing. Yeah. And I love it. And at that moment I felt when I was singing along and like loving this album, it made me feel like, okay, I'm finally in the cool kids because I'm listening to popular music. Because everything I've listened to and mentioned before is like not necessarily popular.
Like kids music.
Yeah.
Like
Disney.
Show tunes and things like that.
Yeah, Weird Al. Like so Alanis Morissette, I was like, I'm cool now. Look at me in my station wagon. Yeah. I am listening to Alanis Morissette and I am the coolest person in the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the, there's a few albums I remember from the 90s that my parents would listen to a lot in the car. And I feel like that was one of them. That, the Cranberries, I remember listening to that all the time. And, I think they'd, turn it down when, some of the bad words would come on. Because I was, 8 or 9 or something when this came out. Yeah. I'm a little bit younger than you. Shocker.
Don't tell anyone. We average our age. It's true. Okay. Next on my list is I don't want to neglect my country love because I do love country music.
You got to put something.
And so I've listened to country music sporadically throughout because my mom kind of discovered she likes country.
Oh, wow!
And so
out of the oldies and Disney,
out of the oldies and Disney, right into country music.
Who knows?
She didn't like the Beatles. We're going to talk about the Beatles,
no.
but we'll talk about that. But
okay.
So I was thinking about country albums that really had an impact on me, and what were my favorite albums that I listened to over and over and over again. And it's a compilation album. It's a greatest hits album, and I don't care. It's Toby Keith's Greatest Hits Volume 2. Nice. And it's all full of amazing songs and only a couple slow songs. So I tend to like the more upbeat stuff. So I just really enjoyed it a lot. I listened to it over and over and over. I shared it with friends who it was right when I was starting college, I think, right out of high school into college. And it just had just an amazing assortment of his music on there, and because of that, and I kind of shared it with my mom, and my mom shared music with me, with country music, at that point, that we went to a couple of concerts, and so we saw Toby Keith in concert twice. I kind of shared that world with my mom a bit, and so we saw them. We saw Kenny Chesney. We saw Kenny Chesney during the 4-month span that he was married to Renee Zellweger. So it was a while back. Anyway, but yeah, and Toby Keith recently passed away. And so I was texting my mom about that and just talking about the influence that his music had on me as a country music listener, and it was just. I liked his music because it was just this is who I am. I don't make apologies for who I am, and I feel like that's the kind of personality that he had in his music, and that he, could laugh at himself too. So I enjoyed that music a lot, and it means a lot to me because it's an experience that I had with my mom. So.
Very nice. Yeah. I don't have much knowledge of country, but that's really nice.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to learn to appreciate it just a little bit more now, but it's always been one of those, like, I like most genres except rap music and country. That was always like the thing I would say. But I'm trying to warm up to even these genres that I used to just dismiss. So, and I think there's a lot of good, there's good quality country music.
There's tons of great stuff. There's just like in every genre, there's mediocre stuff, and there's stuff that you're not gonna like, even within the genre that you love. That's true. Like, I love pop songs, but there's gonna be some things that I'm like, I hate this song. Yeah. And, that's fair. And when as I've been on this prog journey, like, there are some that I'm like, I love this song, and I've put it on my list to listen to over and over. And there's other ones that I've been like, I didn't like that. Yeah, at just all. Not your thing. Do we even post this video? Like I try and find the good in all the music that I'm listening to, but there are some that really, really resonate with me, and his music did, and Toby Keith.
Very nice.
Rest in peace.
All right.
We love you. Okay. Next is the Beatles.
Yay! So finally one I can get behind. Well, I like Weird Al too, but I'm just kidding.
So I said that my parents had a lot of influence on the music I listened to, or more realistically, had an influence on the music that I didn't listen to. And my mom doesn't like the Beatles, and I think honestly what it comes down to is that she's a prude. And that's okay. It's okay. If you don't like, that type of music or mentality, that's who you are. Be who you are. The most important thing, of course, is to treat people kindly no matter what. And so I just don't think she liked the Beatles because they kind of represented that, like...
Yeah, like hippie drug culture.
And my mom's a prude, so that doesn't surprise me at all. And so when I was starting to explore music in my late teens and my early 20s, I had heard about the Beatles. I had maybe heard a couple songs. Even like some of their early oldies had made it through, like my mom's she made it through her filter, because they sounded like oldies, instead of like whatever.
Yeah, the more later era, like experimental kind of things.
And so I was searching about all right, let me try these Beatles. So let me hear what they have to say. And what had just come out was the Beatles 1 album, and I'm like, perfect. A compilation. I know. I don't care. And so I listened to the Beatles 1 album over and over and over again because they're, of course, amazing. And I loved it. And I was like, my mom is not right? What? Like, it was like one of the first inklings that, like, I can really like something that my mom doesn't like, and it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. So the Beatles 1 album, love it.
It's a good compilation. I think it introduced, like, a whole new generation of young Beatles fans, because it was kind of the perfect snapshot of, like, their big hits throughout their career. So I don't begrudge the compilation. And really one of my albums that changed my life is a compilation too, is the early Beatles, like the Red and Blue compilation albums that really connected with me as a young kid and really sparked my love of music, at a young age. I always, like, everything comes from that. I feel like all of my music love since then, I think, started with the Beatles when I was a kid. So,
so yay Beatles! Yay Beatles! So that kind of like opened up a different door for me, and in the fact that like I had breaking away from what my mom had, really, it's not like she controlled. She's like, no, you cannot listen to this. She didn't do that because my brother listened to like Metallica, and like my other brother listened to like this really like alternative stuff. Yeah. She didn't control what we listened to. But it just influenced, like she had an influence on us. Right. Like there are some things she'd say, like, keep that music in your room. I don't want to hear it. So, that's fine. Listen to whatever you want in your room. And so it just kind of developed my personality of what type of music I listen to. And so it was nice to kind of discover something that everybody, the whole world loved, and I knew my mom didn't necessarily like, but it was something that I felt like I was discovering for myself, It was just like a neat little discovery. So
very cool.
All right, I got 2 more.
Okay.
And we're going to jump
quite a bit
forward. Yeah, because that was like all in the early 2000s. So
yeah.
We're going to jump into like late 2010s, so 2016,
okay,
2017, 2018, into a soundtrack.
Sure. I think I know where this is going.
I had been hearing about this musical called Hamilton.
Sure.
And I didn't know anything about it, just that it was taking Broadway by storm. We don't see Broadway shows, very rare. We've seen a handful of them together. I've maybe seen a handful of them other times, but and so when Hamilton, everybody was talking about Hamilton, I'm like, well, I'm gonna give this a chance, and I pulled it up on my phone and streamed it, and got about 5 minutes into it, and I was like, is this whole thing in rap? Like, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know anything. I'm like, can they do that on a Broadway show? It was such a departure from what I knew from Broadway. And just keep in mind, I don't know a lot about Broadway. I know Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I know The Music Man. I know Annie. Wicked. I know Wicked. Sure. Those are traditional Broadway musicals. And so Hamilton was so different, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I can't do all the words because they go too fast for me.
Sure,
but I know a lot of them. But what I think is just really, really cool about it was that it kind of changed my perception of what a Broadway show could be, and so it was just really, really neat. I feel like there was something else I was gonna say about it, but now I can't remember. But that's okay. My niece and nephew, who are teenagers now, they live with near my parents. They live near them, and so they see them all the time. And my niece and nephew, who are teenagers, said, "Hey, Mom, you should come watch Hamilton with us," because Hamilton had just come on
Disney Plus. Yeah.
And they made my mom watch it.
Mistake.
And she sat through it, not enjoying it at all. And we gotta go and get the turkey out of the oven. And so she left with a half an hour left because she hated it.
Yeah.
I loved it, and we had tickets for Hamilton for July 2020.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the show kept getting postponed. Yeah.
And eventually saw it in, I think, late 2021, early 2022,
possibly.
something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But they put it on Disney Plus on July 4th in 2020, the day before when our tickets were supposed to be. So when we were supposed to see it on Broadway, we watched it on Disney Plus instead. Yeah. And so being able to see it and then being able to see the actual live show, it was really, really great. I just loved I loved it. I thought that it was just an amazing bit of work. Oh, I remember the thing I was going to say. One of the things that I love about it so much is that it's historical, and I really like history. I like alternative versions of history. I like books like that. I like anything that's I love a good historical novel, and so this is what I felt like it was, a historical retelling of something. And so then I'd go back and read about the truth, what really happened with Alexander Hamilton and Burr and everything. And so it was just right in the right thing for me. So
awesome. Very cool. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one I have, you'll be happy, is by a prog artist.
Yeah, finally. Something has sunk in after all these shows. 2 years of doing this? 3 years?
But don't worry, it's not prog. It's...
Darn. Close, but no cigar.
Troika.
Okay. That's fair.
It is Troika by Di Virgilio Morrison Jennings.
Yeah.
And of all the things that you have shared with me of prog, I'm sorry, it's the non-prog thing that I love, because ultimately that's my love.
Yeah.
And I appreciate prog, and I have loved a lot of the things that I've listened to, like Moon Safari is, love. Yes, I love this music that you introduced to me through your prog, the prog channel, here, has just taken me by storm, and I just love it so much. I love the music on it. I love the messages of it, that it's music about love and happiness and joy, and it sounds beautiful, and it's something that I feel like we got to share together. You share it with me, but like, it's something that we share together, and I've just adored it, and I've loved it, and was so excited that we got to see them perform for the first time ever on the cruise. They performed at the event for the To Cure a Rose charity event, and so we saw a couple songs from that, and heard them play, and I just have just a deep love for that type of music, the folksy kind of kind of folksy, kind of country, kind of rock and roll, kind of, this mixture, this is that the genre you would call it, folk?
Yeah, or like, singer-songwriter, I think some people would say. Yeah. And folk, I think, is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like
folk rock.
It had folk rock. It had just a real big influence on me in the last few years, just because I felt like it was something that it had just this true, like, I have this true love of something that you shared with me. Oh. And so I just have love. So love on our anniversary.
That's a nice way to close it out.
Yeah, that's my last album.
Yeah.
So those are 10 albums that had a big influence on my life. They changed my life. And I make no apologies for the music that I love, and just know that I'm learning and growing and loving a lot of the music that we are listening to. Even if it hasn't yet made it on my list of albums, it doesn't mean it won't in the future. So
yeah, that's so great. I'm always interested and fascinated with people's musical journey, even if it's not in the same genre or style that I tend to like and talk about all the time. I still just appreciate people who have a love for music, no matter what the genre.
I do.
And so I'm always fascinated to hear what people loved and what impacted them through their life. So I thought this would be fun, even if it's not really the typical kind of music we tend to talk about on the channel. And
I felt like, I was a musician when I was younger. So like I played clarinet in band and all through high school. So I was in marching band. I did like all the field shows and everything like that. I was in choir in high school and in college. And I took 9 years of piano lessons too. So I play a little bit of piano. I never practiced well enough to actually say I can play piano. But I understand music and the concepts. And so through my formal education of learning music mixed with like the things that I've learned on, in my musical journey, like it's been, I really love music, and I think it has such a huge influence on everyone's life, on the things we listen to, but like on movies and everything. Like you add a soundtrack to something and it just changes everything. So
yeah, definitely.
Yay,
Music's powerful, and it's nostalgic, and it can bring back all kinds of memories. So very nice. All right.
Okay, I tried to keep it to 20 minutes, but we're at 33 right now.
It didn't quite work.
Sorry.
Oh, well. That's
Not
okay.
Sorry.
Thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you appreciated this kind of little special episode, a little different than what we typically do on our Sunday episodes. But usually on Sunday we react to different prog songs. So if you want to come back next Sunday, we'll be doing more of that. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and let us know in the comments how you feel. And we'll hopefully see you in another episode. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the music.